Hi guys, welcome to a new podcast here. We are going to discuss a lot about our industry, a lot about betting, casinos, and so on. And today we have a marvelous superhero, I would say, team of speakers. And what we are going to talk here about is event-driven SEO traffic and monetizing major sport events. And for sure, we're going to talk about 2024, but in general also. So, my name is Vasilii Gamov. So, guys, could you introduce yourself? Ivana, ladies first, let's start with you.
Thank you, ladies first. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this podcast. Pleasure to be here. I am Ivana Flynn, and I work with SEO. I'm in SEO for the last 16 years. I worked with huge industry leaders such as Betson, Catena Media, William Hill, and soon I'm joining a new company and starting my new journey with Soft2Bet as their SEO director.
Congratulations on your new job, your new role.
Thank you.
Good luck with it. Let's go on. Dirk, could you share with us your experience?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Dirk Schembri. I am from Malta. So, from my end, I've been in the SEO industry and iGaming industry for over a decade. I have worked with companies such as RakeTech, Finmeek, SEO, Growth Leads, Apex, Play and Go. I've been around the block. From my end, yeah, I've been heading the SEO as well. And lately, I've started my own SEO agency as well. And we specialize in iGaming and particularly trying to get past these Google updates.
Yeah, looks like everybody on this page right now. Good luck with it. We're gonna fight it, I think, all together. Sean, let's go on with you. What is your experience?
Sure. So I actually came from the technology space and then entered iGaming around a decade ago. Since then, I've become a co-founder at GameChanger. We're an SEO agency. We focus on helping everyone from startups to scale-ups and enterprises, all the way to people who are looking to dominate the SERPs, which is quite fun when we're dealing with high competition niches, which is exactly what we're talking about now. So we've touched everything from real estate to e-commerce to finance, and iGaming in particular is a particular soft spot for me because I really do enjoy the hyper competition. I really do enjoy all of the niches. I mean, we're talking about events and sports today, but there's casino, there's lotto, there's so much more which goes on. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Thank you so much for sharing, Simon. And let's finish this part with you. Could you tell us more about you?
Yes, my background is mostly in sports betting, as a sports bettor, so a customer, if you like. That's my background for many years, and for the past 3 years, I've been working in iGaming for affiliate companies, RakeTech, briefly under Dirk, as it happens, and now at Game Lounge, using through the betting.com product, which is an affiliate sportsbook comparison site. And we also work on a product called pickstreet.com, which is a tipster service, an AI tipster service. So background is SEO, sports betting. It's an interest of mine, and I'm involved in it professionally now.
Yeah, looks like you have enormous expertise. Thank you for sharing. For sure, our viewers will have some questions to you. I have no doubt in it in the comments. So, and let's go to the beginning, to the first part. But before that, I would like to announce the agenda of our podcast. And so, what we are going to discuss for sure, major betting events, major sport events all over the world. We're gonna start with it, then go through insights based on our expertise, discuss content, discuss traffic, what we should use, and main marketing approach. Also, we're gonna discuss SEO tools that you can use to track your conversions, track your traffic while these sport events, and we're gonna finalize it with some insights and recommendations about what main events we should use or pay attention in very particular GEOs, and gonna talk about one by one. So let's start with the first part, and the first part is about the significance of SEO technologies and these major betting events. I will start with myself, if you don't mind. I have some experience in major betting events, not only from the side of operator, but also from the side of traffic sources, from the side of affiliate. And what I figured out that there always an explosion while big events such as Eurocup, football Eurocup, or while Olympic Games, or with some major events. And for sure, there gonna be an explosion growth this year also in May, in June, in July. So you're gonna expect it. So let's go one by one. Sean, could you share your experience? What do you see about major betting sport events?
Okay, so I guess we're talking about SEO over here. I assume we'll also talk about some other marketing channels eventually, as you mentioned on the media side. But if we were to look at SEO, we first need to consider what are we doing in SEO, right? We're providing the right information to the right people and giving them the best answer to our question, to their question. But when we're talking about events, timing also comes into it also. And this could potentially make things more complicated, or if you look at it in a more positive way, less competitive if you do things the right way. And when we're talking about gambling traffic for events, we're talking about, I guess, two main funnels over here. And you mentioned that you are working on the operator side as well as the traffic generation side. So what we're talking about are operators and we're talking about affiliates over here. And when we're looking at getting in between a person's search, we have to understand what kind of value we can bring to them. So operators have a lot of different opportunities to monetize versus affiliates. And events are quite interesting also because it's difficult to estimate how large it's going to be. As an example, we have the new Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul event, which will go live on Netflix, I believe, in July 20th. I'm not sure how many people are actually preparing or even considering this at this stage, but this is going to be a huge global event. Can you evaluate the search interest for now and try and understand with a range of different tools where you should focus your effort and what kind of content you should build? For sure. But then the question becomes, what kind of product are you promoting? What kind of monetization path do you have? Are you, as an example, a tipster? Are you generating subscriptions? Are you looking at a cost acquisition of a client, or are you looking at CPAs? So when it comes to event traffic and what to expect, there are going to be, yes, a range of different items which will blow over the next couple of months. How you prepare for them and how you target them all has to do with the bottom of the funnel. So how you're going to make money out of it. So my advice over here, or let's say my pitch in to this conversation, would be work backwards. Think about what value you could get from the traffic based on how you're monetizing, and then create your strategy around that.
Yeah, quite a nice approach. Ivana, do you have anything to add on top of that?
Of course, I would go more from the SEO point of view. So we know these events are happening, right? You know that Euro is coming. You know that World Cup in 2026 is coming. From SEO, my advice and my approach always is work and give yourself enough time to work on it. From SEO, you need time, especially if you are new, if you have a new affiliate website, or if you are new operator and you don't have that name, you don't have the landing pages yet, start to prepare them now to make sure that you can rank for it. I mean, Euros, it's around the corner. If you're starting now, you might not manage, but you should have started year ago. So always be prepared, allow yourself time, create good landing pages, create good a part of your website dedicated to events such as Euros, and make sure that you get a good content if your website allows that, which many times is a problem with operator sites not having any content boxes. So try to work around that. Make sure that you can have a content, and try to use other channels than just SEO. Try to work with all the other parts of your organization to make sure, as Sean had said, that you have a good product to promote. And then once you have a good SEO product and SEO strategy, always work with all the other ones that are pushing for it. So your social media, your programmatic, and utilize the traffic, because traffic is a massive ranking signal. We know that. We know that from the Google leaks as well. It was confirmed. So make sure that you know who is pushing what and utilize that in favor of SEO and to monetize it the best you can.
Yes, I can totally agree with it. You should think not only short term but long term and prepare everything 1 year or even several years in advance. Simon, do you have anything to add here about strategy and long term strategy? Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, as Sean and Ivana mentioned, you need time to plan your content and your link building. And when it comes to working out keyword volumes, most of the time you're used to using Ahrefs for some accurate keyword volumes, but Ahrefs doesn't give you the full accuracy that you can have, because it takes about 6 months for that data to feed through, and if it's an upcoming event, you're not going to have it. So you need to be clever. You need to use historical similar events like the Jake Paul fight coming up. You won't find any keyword volume of that on Ahrefs. So you can use things like Google Trends, which is a bit more up to date to see if people are searching for things. But more likely, you're going to have to find proxy similar events which happened in the past for like Jake Paul or Logan Paul. Shows how much I know about this event, but I'm happy that Sean raised it. And then try to find similar events from the past and see what the keyword volume is like, and also what keywords people were searching for at that time. And then you can work forwards and you can start to take a fair guess of what the keywords that people will be searching for. You're not going to see it in Ahrefs, but you can make guesses. Similar things will happen in the Euro 2024, which is coming up, and the Copa America tournament in South America, which is coming up. People will not be searching for an Ahrefs Venezuela against Brazil, because that game never happened in previous tournaments. However, you can do a lot of guesswork. If you can see what Brazil games were playing 4 years ago, and you can guess what people will be searching for this time round based on the games that will be coming. So there's a lot of inference work when it comes to sporting events, and a bit of cleverness and a bit of experience and a bit of knowledge of the sporting event world can help a great deal. Yeah, so you can't just rely on Ahrefs, is the point you're trying to make. But use Google Trends and use some guesswork, and you can get a fairly accurate keyword strategy. And you need time. You definitely need time. That's something that cannot be emphasized enough.
And something really interesting, which I think you mentioned, which needs to be, let's just say, pointed out, is that you need expertise. We're talking about sporting events here. And I myself, I'm not a sporting buff, so I would never write about sports. But I mean, Simon, you are an expert on sports. So who would you rather read a tip from, Sean Bianco or Simon Flynn?
Well, I'm always happy to read Sean Bianco's tips, you know. Yeah.
I think I can follow up on that a bit. Yeah, particularly as well to pick up on what Ivana rightfully said, is to make sure that you have your main page is live ASAP. There's no reason why you can't plan these at least a year in advance. What I like to do as well, if possible, is to create a sort of evergreen. So in the case, if it's something that happens every year or every month, you even try to keep the same URL structure and then just update the stuff. So rather than always putting in I always go against putting in dates in URLs, whatever you do. Try to keep those as evergreen as possible, as they can come very fruitful if you simply keep the URL and update the data. You're both giving Google fresh data, and you're giving both the user as well up-to-date data. In the case of sports as well, what's good compared to, say, casino, is you have to be on par. You have to be an expert. You're going to have to publish much more pages. So the events that happen in sport are much more kind of evergreen content. That's why the news aspect of Google and constantly publishing new stuff daily is highly beneficial with sports. While on casino, it's quite different. You can focus on having a page which is evergreen there longer and try to rank that. In sports, it's always building the latest data, the latest sporting events, because everything is going to change as well. As Simon said, some matches have not happened, some fights have not happened before. But preparing as early as possible would definitely be one of my main suggestions there.
And it's quite interesting that you mentioned the evergreen aspect, Dirk, and everything around that. So events are happening as we move along. And we can also think that when you're talking about, let's say, the URL structures and the date and the time not being added, when you look at operators, some of the URLs are terrible that are created at scale, and even the entire, let's say, way that certain platforms work. So when you're talking about an event starting for pre-bets 3 days before, it goes live, completes, and then it disappears. So you're creating thousands of pages at scale. You might even put a hashtag in the URL to ask Google not to crawl this page or not to consider it because you understand the mess that you're creating on the URL structure. But let's say you have a parameter URL where Google will pick up that page and try to index it. You're talking about question mark, parameter, event 125, with a certain date and so forth. And this is a huge opportunity missed. So, you have the potential with an operator to implement automation and to implement scale. And you also have the potential, I believe, to archive and to create a bit of an experience based around all of the different attributes and entities which actually contribute towards a sporting event. So myself, Simon, and Ivana recently spoke on a podcast about the UEFA Cup. And I'm no sports buff, but we're SEOs. And in SEOs, we're going to hyper focus and learn as much as we can about a particular niche and topic. And when you start looking at the sports and you just type a little bit about UEFA into Google, you will see that Google organizes information that it collects from different entity and attribute sources itself, and it will provide certain features into the SERPs. And this could give you a good indication of all of the different attributes and entities which you can create on your operation, let's say your front end of your platform, to cover things such as these types of sports, football, tennis, what happens in a tennis match versus a boxing bout, different types of sporting events, races, the locations that the matches are happening up, the stadiums, the people who are sponsoring them, the teams, the individuals, the athletes and heats, captains, the past performance. And if you were to create, as an example, a really good URL structure whereby one team plays against another, and then you have pay content which gets archived on the URL side, but doesn't get, not on the URL side, but on the page side, but on the URL side remains consistent. If those two teams play again in the future, you could have historic data and data which is happening live also. So there are so many untapped opportunities which, let's say, operators are not currently tapping into, and it's all ties back always to the platform and the technology available. So there really are a lot of interesting opportunities out there around events and the way that it's structured. So I completely agree with you over there, Dirk.
One more thing to add as well is the difference. I think the main difference in technical structure, as rightly said, Sean, when an investment comes into place is between, say, casino and sports, is your technical foundation. It's so much more complicated to make sure, not only from an SEO perspective, but even from a technical foundation. So the CMS you're using, the APIs you're using from a sports perspective is going to be much more heavy load on your development as well, rather than compared to something which I find a bit more simple to have it from a technical point of view, say casino.
Yeah, nice guys. I was quite disappeared a little because of my internet. Sorry for that. I'm sure Simon, Dirk, and Sean covered this topic in a good way. At least I've heard something in the very end of this discussion. Totally agree that it's a good idea to write as much content as possible, to have some retro or history or legacy, whatever you call it, with previous matches and such stuff. Have you already discussed, maybe without me, what is the best content for SEO? Is it like news? Is it some analytical stuff about teams, about football matches, about expectations, and so on? What keywords, maybe, if you can share it, some of them, not all of your money, for sure, I understand, maybe some examples. What are the most popular keywords or approaches in part of content are here for you at this market? Simon, can we start with you on this part?
The keywords. I mean, again, you need to guess what the exact keywords will be, because it's a sporting event, which probably hasn't, which hasn't happened in the exact form as you're about to have. So on the affiliate side, which is my specialty, the best, the most converting keywords are best bookmaker for X, best bookmaker for Copa America, for example, best bookmaker for NFL, best NFL betting sites, best Super Bowl. So I can't speak for the operator side. I'm not fully embedded in that, but for the affiliate side, best bookmaker for X or best X bookmakers is the best converting keyword and has the highest volume. And there's so many different variations you can have for the same tournament. But yeah, but we focus on best.
Thank you. Yeah, good, quite a good approach. One of the biggest queries, I would say. Ivana, do you have anything to add here in part of players? What do they look for also beside bookmakers, but maybe particular cups, particular plays, and so on?
So from operators, I represent mainly operator, we have evergreen pages basically, and we try to go for the main money keywords such as sports betting, betting online, sports betting online. Those are the main keywords we try to cover all the time. And then we would cover the leagues or the upcoming events, and we try to do it a long time before, 1 year at least. And you would do Euro 2024, and we would create history in places, in expectations. But everybody's going to tell you all about this, how to acquire the people. But remember that SEO is very much a retention channel as well. So make sure to serve the keywords and have pages for that, especially if you are an affiliate but operator as well, such as results, because people look for this. And as you have created all these amazing plays when we are talking about Euros or where we are talking about any other sports and any other event, let's say Cheltenham, for horse betting, you want to make sure that people come back and give the signal to Google that this is good result for all over the event, the history, the preparation, the live betting, and the results. So because we know Google measures that, we know that this is an important thing to understand what these pages are about and how people work with them, and if they somewhat finish their goals with the page. So I would make sure that you cover your retention keywords as well. And this is many times forgotten and omitted from the SEOs. So concentrate on that as well. That would be my special tip today.
Yeah, thank you. Very crucial point. Sean, anything to add here?
So you've heard it from the affiliate, you've heard it from the operator. And as Simon said, you try to tackle those best keywords because that triggers the purpose of an affiliate site, which is a comparison and a recommender, an expert opinion. So that's the right place to find that information. When you're looking at a sports book, operator such as Ivana mentioned, you're looking at the actual end result of where they're going to end up performing the activity. So you have a product over here and you have a product to promote. So over there, you're talking about the particular product and those extremely highly competitive keywords, as Ivana said, such as sports betting and all of those sub keywords which come up around it, such as football betting and all of those subcategories. And there are a lot of other ways that you can look at this. So are you a tipster? So you could be an affiliate and targeting content. You could be an affiliate in particular targeting tips. Do you have a Facebook community that then you get into a Telegram channel that then you provide tips to and then you promote to different operators? So there are so many tactics out there. And I guess we've covered the two main spaces which relate to SEO. I've given you some hints of some other opportunities, but we can also try and understand, I guess, to kind of differentiate what happens if things go wrong. Or we're talking about events here, we're also talking about platforms, and we're also talking about things which happen during events, such as them getting postponed. People do tend to search for things that might impact their bets, such as what happens to my accumulator if a match is postponed. So there are a lot of different opportunities out there which you can grasp and you can touch when you understand how the products work, how the events work, and also what kind of impact you have on those events when certain, let's say, unforeseen circumstances occur, and how you might prepare for that also.
Yeah, totally agree. Dirk, do you have anything to talk about here in this part? Or looks like we cover almost everything.
I think a lot has been covered. The experts have spoken.
Yeah, I think so. So let's start with you with the next question. We already discussed some events, some growth, some content strategies. And when we talk about tracking results of SEO, it's crucial to understand how to measure it. What are key metrics and indicators? Could you share your expertise here? What tools do you use and what metrics do you pay attention on?
So when it comes to tools, it can be very tricky, particularly with these event-driven. As Simon said, you can't fully depend on something, say like Ahrefs, where the data is not as up to date, particularly in sports. So you do have to make sure that you collect all the data and kind of internally construct it in a way that can be beneficial for your different departments. So I do believe a lot in collecting data, using data that you only have access to, such as Google Search Console or Google Analytics, and anything that is not directly connected to your internal data will be secondary from my aspect. So we make sure we connect everything with Looker Studio nowadays as well, and we build our own metrics and specific events that we find are useful. So example, in the case of US, you have the Super Bowl, which is a huge event that happens every year. Having your own data from year to year is hugely beneficial to see when exactly you should post certain new pages. Data, if it's particularly in the US, you have to see which state you have to be posted, because you have practically 52 different, or well, the legal aspect of it, different states that you want to publish in certain time periods as well. So that's very beneficial to make sure you collect and make sure you filter out your own data rather than fully relying on third party.
Yes, exactly. That's how it works. We need to compare our current results with the previous experience and so on. Guys, do you have any tools? For sure, we know Ahrefs, we know Google Trends, we know Screaming Frog, SEMrush, for example. Somebody uses still Google Search Console. What else? Any other special useful tools you use right now, maybe for SEO? Ivana, do you have anything else to add here?
I would say don't forget about Bing and Bing tools, because search is mainly Google, that is true, but Bing is growing more in importance, and it could be those 6-7% of search that you might learn more how to work with them and how to understand, especially if Google is going through massive volatility and massive updates, or if you get penalized in Google, this 6-7% of traffic might be crucial for you. So utilize those as well. It is a little bit different to Google Search Console, but it's very similar data, and people just don't use it enough and don't understand it enough. And if you work with huge websites, it is a tool you should use. As well, you need to ask yourself, what do you want to measure? Do you want to measure conversions? Then you go to Google Analytics or Tableau or any other thing that measures your conversion, be, I don't know, NRC or NDC, up to you. Or do you want to measure how your rankings are moving every hour through the event? So you would go to my favorite little small very cheap tool is What's My SERP. Is like really really cheap, but it gives you the rankings every hour. Or you can just install some extensions such as Night Watch, and you can check your rankings, and see if you are ranking there or there. So I think it depends what you want to measure, but there are lots of wonderful tools that can help you with it. But I would again say, don't forget about Bing. It is something that, especially now, Google with going crazy with the updates and Google, announcing SGE, people, it is losing a little bit of the market share. It used to be 90%. Now we are in 85, 6. So it's dropping, and this is where Bing is picking up. So make sure to use that as well.
So you point that Bing is much more easier, I would say, for SEO specialists to use, and there are less like these new updates on Bing side. So your recommendation to go there for all of us.
It is. I'm not saying it's easier, and it's very much still influenced by the Google updates, but it behaves differently. And if you get penalized and get manual action in Google, doesn't mean that you're going to be penalized in Bing. So you want to make sure that you measure everything and you understand all your website. If you're having 3 clicks a day, you don't care. But if you're having 3,000 clicks and suddenly you drop, then this 6-7% from Bing might be a lifesaver for your business. So understand and learn Bing tools for sure. Because search is not just Google. Search is as well Bing, and search is TikTok, and search is YouTube. Search is changing. So make sure you understand that and you utilize all of it. Don't rely just on one tool, and don't rely just on Google, because I think it's massively changing in this time.
Yeah, that's very interesting point, because I've heard that part about Bing not only from you, but from some guys all over the world for the previous year, and there were also many guys who was like in this Bing stuff. I would say that's interesting. So for sure we need to pay more attention at stuff like that. Sean, coming back to you, if we talk about tools and metrics, do you have anything to add here?
So, I mean, it's been pretty extensively covered by Dirk and Ivana. But when I heard them talking, I also had some thoughts which came to mind, which were and are the most powerful tools that we actually have as SEOs to be able to determine what the right steps are, and that's the search engines themselves. So if you listen to Dirk speaking about the United States, as we know, hreflang doesn't support state level or province level categorization. So you have US as a country, and then you normally have to build out subfolders targeting those particular states to try and get search traffic from those particular keywords. But look, listening to Ivana speaking then got me also thinking about the updates which are happening on Google. And what you might see in Malta when you were to search for an event might not be the exact same thing that you're seeing in the States right now. And it might differ from state to state also. So when you're looking at your tracking and all of those other areas, there's a lot of different tools you can use. But when you're looking at the top of funnel of, okay, what kind of strategy am I going to use for these different areas? When you have Google updates rolling out in affecting different countries in different ways, and you have different SERPs displaying some SGE, some no SGE, some triggering features, some not, I would say that one of the best tools you could use is the search engine itself to really look into it and understand what features are being triggered and whether the same tactic you would use in one state would work in the other one. And I'm pretty platform agnostic, so I try to test at least 2 new tools per month. I mean, no tool is correct. And when we're talking about events, even Search Console is 2 days late. So how much value can it offer you in real time versus Google Analytics, where you get something a little bit better, but not that precise? So I always like to look into the processes. And from an SEO perspective, what I've been hyper focusing on is generating SOPs, processes, technical integrations into a central system that triggers different expert opinions, different levels of expertise, different tools, different integrations, different scripts based on different events which occur. And I'm using something which I think I can give you all a tip on, which would be Notion, which is something I discovered late in 2023 and is really helping me organize and automate things in a nice way.
Yeah, nice. That's a very good approach to use different tools and to test something new on a regular basis. I totally 100% agree with this point. Simon, I'm afraid we left like nothing to you for you to add. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, just let me know, and we will give you a word. So, and here we can go to the final part of our discussion and to share some predictions or ideas about GEOs and markets, and exactly about some competitions, contests, which gonna happen soon. And we're gonna go one by one. I would like to start with myself, if you don't mind. So I'm not going to be so shy, so I start with myself, and I'm gonna talk about African market, as I recently been to Sigma in Cape Town, South Africa, and we discussed like a lot about Africa there. What I can say about the market in general, that's interesting, but still, European sports are quite popular there. There is a big potential for football cups like Euro Cups, Championship League, and so on, very popular among many African countries. And if we want to go to something special, for sure, we should talk about African Cup of Nations, like local tournament for football. For sure, we should mention something local sports like cricket in South Africa. It's quite popular. Probably it's somehow connected to the British period, like in India, for example. But still, also a lot of guys plays table tennis, plays volleyball. Even handball is quite popular among similar several countries. So that's about Africa. In general, looks like Europe, but with some special things in part of cricket and so on. So let's go to the next geos. And Simon, I would like to share your expertise to give you the first word about Latin America and Sweden. If I'm right, you would like to tell us about it.
Yeah, Latin America, I think, is no surprise that it's dominated by football or soccer. If you're part of the North American part of the continent, I specialize a little bit in Brazil and the rest of South America and Mexico a little bit. They're very interested, not so much. There's very little interest in European leagues in South America. Mostly focused on their own domestic tournaments. So in Brazil, you got the Brasileirão, the Federal State Championship. You got the Copa Libertadores, which is like the Champions League, but for South America. And they're obsessed with these tournaments. And also, if you go to places like Chile or Argentina, they're not interested in other leagues next door. So it's a little bit different from Europe, where we all kind of have an interest in the French league and the Italian Serie A and the Bundesliga. So in South America, you need to focus on the domestic leagues. And within Brazil, it's a big country, and you got teams thousands of miles away from each other. And there's small teams like in the north of Brazil, like Fortaleza, which are very, very popular in the area of Fortaleza. It's not like everyone supports Flamengo in Brazil. So in order to target the different states in Brazil, you need to focus landing pages on those teams and those clubs and those state championships. So South America is very atomized, and even within big countries like Brazil, it's even more atomized. The big tournament for Latin America this year will be the Copa America, which runs concurrently with the UEFA Euro, the European Championships. It goes from the 14th of June to the 15th of July, so it works at exactly the same times as the Euros, and it will take all the attention within the Americas because USA is part of that tournament as well, as is Mexico. And all the focus there will be on the Copa America, not on the Euros at all. They won't care about the Euros. That's
so
it.
Yes, Simon, if you don't mind, I have one question here. You mentioned that they're going to concentrate totally on the local tournament. And you mentioned they don't pay any attention about Euros, like 100%. You mean, or
like 95%? I mean,
Wow.
if the Euros was happening at a slightly set different time from the Copa America, then that would be different. But it's happening at the same time, and the attention span just cannot cover what will be the earlier in the day type tournament for South Americans when they look at European. So it's like we in Europe will not be interested too much in the Copa America. It'll be like a footnote. It'll be like in page 7 of the newspaper.
Yeah.
And the same is true in the Americas, North and South and Central America for the Euros. So that's quite interesting. So you need in the website that I take care of right now, betting.com, we've got a team that does Latin America, and we have a team that does European, the Euros, and they will be working in parallel but separately. And I think you need to do that if you are going to cover multiple regions like South America, North America, and Europe, which most of us do.
Yeah, I think so. It's a very good advice to our viewers who work with Latin American market and with European market at the same time. I believe there are affiliates like that, not only in SEO and not only operators watching us. So keep in mind, you should split these tournaments. And Simon, you also mentioned you have some expertise in Swedish market. Could you share this also?
Yeah, well, Sweden is in a odd position that it did not qualify for the Euros. The national team didn't qualify for the Euros, but they still will be interested in the Euros. The most will be interested in England. There seems to be some kind of obsession with English football in Sweden. They're very much into the Premier League, for example. Sweden, apart from the summertime, so the Sweden, their domestic league plays during the summer. So it's a good thing to focus on in the summertime. For most summers, when the European football season has a downtime, you've still got the Swedish Allsvenskan, as it's called. It's very good to target because the Swedes are still playing in the summer. And also in Sweden, they're very much interested in the Nordic skiing type sports like curling, downhill skiing, alpine skiing, bandy, which I think is very popular in Russia, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So in Sweden, there's a whole bunch of sports that the rest of us in Europe don't have much of a clue about, which I personally did not have a clue about until I started working with the Swedish market. So Sweden, during the winter time, you've got these weird snow-based sports, and in the summertime, you've got soccer, domestic soccer, which is a great thing to interest users with during the summer when the European football season is over. Yeah, and in the time of the Euros, the Swedes will be interested in that, very much interested in that, even though the Swedes did not qualify this year.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing. I would say quite the same thing is here in Poland, where I live. We have ski jumping sport, and it is on the second place after football.
Yeah,
it's like not so usual for European country because I believe Poland is not on this so far north as Sweden, but still ski jumping is on the second place. That's always interesting to figure out stuff like that about local markets. Let's go. Yeah, you have anything to add? No?
Yeah, one thing, trotting, which is like horse racing but on carts. So people, it's like Roman chariots, they have these trotting races. They're massively popular in Sweden, which again I didn't know until I entered that market. So horse racing doesn't exist in Sweden, but it's massive in the UK and the US and Australia and Dubai. But in Sweden, it's not, and it's all about trotting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We will keep this in mind. Thank you for sharing. And if we talked about Latin America in the very beginning, It's obvious we should go to North America with Dirk. I know you have some experience in the US. You already mentioned it several times. So could you share your expertise about US market, main events, and maybe not even like main, but most popular sports in US, and where you guess like the biggest volumes of bettors and players are?
So yeah, in the case of the US, for me, it always, and I think the data will say, is, again, it will always fall down to the NFL. So you have the Super Bowl, particularly the Super Bowl. Honestly, that weekend alone sometimes gives back projectory revenue for a year for some companies. So if they get that right, they know they are set for the rest of the year. And if they don't get that right, it actually influences the revenue from a yearly perspective. So that is what I feel the most important weekend sports event by far for a US perspective. Another very important one is the college football and basketball, so particularly NCAA. What's nice is the revenue, I say, is close to the NFL, but it's much spread on a longer basis. So there's more planning there to be done as well, and you can kind of spread your risk more. So that's why that as well as another great coverage as well. And then there's the other sports, the NHL, MLB, but I feel that those three are definitely ones particularly to always focus on. So important to know the dates as well. Have your pages pre-launched before with the data from a tech side, you're good. And in the case of state specific, we're talking about tools. One thing if you're going into US, and I said that always depend on your data locally. One tool I highly recommend, which is sort of like not VPN in itself, but allows you to have geo precision, so you can actually check your ranking from a specific location, even state specific, which Google unfortunately does not give you. It's Mobile Moxie. I found that to be good as well. So you integrate that into your site as well, and it'll give you data which I feel will be hard to get elsewhere as well, because you're getting raw data from the users' perspective as well and where they're coming from. As well, very important in state specific, you're using high quality VPNs as well to make sure that you're checking the ranking and data from each specific state. Each state, even neighboring states, New York versus New Jersey, you really need to distinguish between the two example and make sure that you understand that the SERPs are different when someone is loading from certain locations as well. And in the case of US, obviously being some states, it's very complicated from a compliance point of view. So I believe that from an SEO, that is would be my biggest headache. So I try to lean away and have our legal or compliance team take over that. But that is a huge headache. So whoever is getting into this, particularly in the US, I highly lean away from any unlicensed. Make sure you do it licensed, and make sure you have a very solid legal team. I feel that if you're going in the US, maybe UK as well is close, you need to invest in your compliance and your lawyer teams.
Sure thing. It's tier one country, it's tier one market. For sure, you should invest in it. Thank you for sharing your experience. And let's fly back to Europe. Sean, could you share with us something about Europe? I know you know something about Germany, probably.
So I'm not an avid sports fan. I learn things related to sports to be able to generate results from a SERP perspective and marketing campaigns. I mean, it's been extensively covered, the US markets and South American market. What I can say is something which I find interesting, which is cross-selling opportunities also. So everyone knows that casino players are higher value than sports players in many cases, and there's a lot of risks with sports players. So a campaign related to a particular sport, which I found pretty impressive over the past decade, was related to the biathlon. If you don't know what the biathlon is, it's a crazy sport where people have guns on their back, go down slopes on skis, stop, aim, shoot targets, and keep on going over to the next one. It happens in several European countries. It doesn't have a huge amount of, let's say, potential from the betting point of view, but what I've seen which was extremely interesting was setting up a tournament with slots, and migrating that user base that were following the biathlon, which were a very, very particular user base, over into this slots tournament and generating profitability out of that. So as I mentioned, I'm not a huge sports buff, but I can tell you about the things which I found interesting, which ended up in generating larger revenues.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So, and to finalize this part, we already discussed something about ski jumping in Poland, about some snow-based sports in Sweden. Ivana, I know you have something to add on this part, some special particular sports which are potential, up to your opinion.
Yeah, back to biathlon. It's huge in my country, Slovakia. We even got like some Olympic medals in that. So I was like, yes, biathlon. I know this one. Because again, just like Sean, I am not huge into sports. And we've been talking mainly about football. And of course, these are the events, and it is the sport that is going to bring you the numbers, right? And as Sean said, you need to cross-sell those to make sure you make money out of them. But let's not forget that sport is much more than football/soccer. And we have got sports that actually bring people that spend lots of money. So let's talk about those for a moment. We have horse betting that is extremely popular in UK and Ireland. I mean, you cannot not have a site without targeting Cheltenham, which already happened in March. But if you want to score for next year, prepare now, because March, it doesn't feel like it, but it's around the corner from SEO point of view. It's like, oh, 11 months, that's nothing for us. Then you have got the Royal Ascot, which is happening in June, and we just had the Grand National in April. But those are things you need to be preparing for. So it is huge in UK and Ireland, but as well you have got USA with Kentucky Derby that is happening in May, and as Simon, I think you already mentioned, United Arab Emirates, we have got the Dubai World Cup, where is more money than in United Arab Emirates, and that happened in March. Again, if you have a sports betting site, make sure to cover those, because they will not bring the numbers as football, but they will bring more money, because those are the whales that spend, right? As well, another sport that people don't understand how rich the bettors are or punters are, it's tennis. That's the one that makes extreme amount of money for operators, and this is the sport we like to push because it brings the VIPs. And you have got the four big ones you should be covering, which is Wimbledon, French Open, Australian Open, and US Open. And just the Australian Open already happened in January, but rest of them you have June, July, and September. So there is still a chance to target those. And of course, golf. Golf is again interesting for betting for the rich people, the ones that understand it. And again, cover US Open, British Open, and the PGA. So if you cover those and they are happening different times of a year, you can put it in between your football events and bring more money. So when preparing for any events, remember that it is not just football. It is as well horse betting, tennis, and others. And if you want to think completely outside of a box, think of like the Eurovision, people bet on that. So do even all those niche betting if you want. Could be interesting to cover.
Thank you. Thank you for such nice recommendation. For sure, in part, your affiliate, you should cover like every day of your whole year to mention every event. If you're an operator, for sure you need to develop your product for special regions, for special markets, and use not only football. Football is popular, but you can make more money and bring more value to the market by using all other events which Ivana mentioned and our dear colleagues mentioned also. So I think here we can stop for now. It was a very useful discussion. We're gonna collect a PDF file with SEO tools, and I believe we're gonna add also geo recommendations for about sports to this document. This document you will be allowed to download via the link in the description when we publish this video. So one more time, thank you, dear guests, dear colleagues, dear friends. It's a pleasure, as always, to talk with smart people, with you. Do you like it? Everything is fine. Maybe you have something in mind to add, like final word about events, betting. Now? Not for now?
I think we extensively covered absolutely everything.
Yeah, I feel quite the same. So thank you so much once again. Thank you, dear viewers. It was a pleasure to unveil some secrecy for you. Subscribe to our channel, press like button, share with your friend. It will really help us, and we're gonna provide you with more podcasts and videos like that in the very nearest time. Thanks for watching. See ya. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.